for coming out. This is a really big day in the Métis Nation. One of the days we honor one of our patriarchs, our martyrs, Louis Riel. And this is the beginning of really a long week, what we call Métis Week. And there'll be a series of celebrations. I know there's a lot online right now. If you check the Métis Nation of Alberta website, it'll give you the lowdown of what's happening online. And so that's basically it. The local is the new executive. We were elected in February, so we've never really had a chance to get grounded. Watch your step, by the way. So we've never really had a chance to sit down and get grounded as a local and as executive because of COVID. But we've been kind of piecemealing it, and we've been having meetings. Haven't really got a chance to get into the community, but that's something that we're going to be doing here shortly as well. So thank you all for coming down. I'd like to introduce you also to the Vice President of Métis Local 1904, Vern Hagen. Vernon and Dana have done an awesome job in pulling all this together. There's a young lady named Dana, you probably see her in the back there. She's just been awesome on behalf of the city of St. Albert and the work that she's done in the Métis community, especially with us in helping coordinate this event. So I want to pay thank you to Vernon and to Dana as well. With that, I just want to introduce you to one of our elders in our local. We have several. Gary Gardner. I've known Gary since probably 1984, a few years. And Gary's been a staunch supporter of the Métis Nation throughout, not only here in St. Albert, but on a bigger, broader scale as well. So with that, I'd like to, before I get Gary up here, just so you know, you can pull your mask down if you're speaking on the mic, because here's why. Every time somebody else comes up, I'll change this so that you don't have to worry about your, what did Trudeau call it? Speaking moistly? And so you don't have to worry about that. So with that, I'd like to get Gary up here to start off with a prayer.
Thank you, Bruce. Good afternoon and welcome everybody. The COVID-19 pandemic isn't stopping the Métis from celebrating about the Louis Riel and Métis Week. Typically, Métis Week includes a large festival with many attendees, but because this isn't possible this year, we are having a flag raising for our Métis culture and Louis Riel. The Métis flag was first used by the Métis resistance fighters in Canada prior to the Battle of Seven Oaks in 1816. The flag is either blue or red with white infinity symbol. The symbol represents the mixing of the European immigrants and the First Nations people, which creates a new and distinct culture, the Métis. It can be perceived as two co-joined circles standing for the unity of two cultures, Aboriginal and European. This flag soon became the trademark for the nation, and today the Métis flag is still used and carried as a symbol of continuity and pride. This is the first time in many years that we haven't been able to host a festival for Métis Week. Large gatherings have always been a part of celebrating Métis culture. It just brings people together and gives you a good feeling of who you are. That's why we want to continue to do this, but safety of our elders and our Métis people is a big concern this year. We have a very vulnerable population. For years, our people have had to hide the fact that they are Métis. And now that we are public and proud to show we are Métis people, we must find new ways to celebrate being Métis. Métis Week marks the annual celebration of the Métis people, their culture, and their contributions. Louis Riel devoted and sacrificed his life defending the rights of Métis people. On November 16, 1885, he was executed. Each year during the week encompassing November 16, we pay tribute to Louis Riel and the Métis contributions in the creation of Canada. The aftermath of the 1885 Battle of Batoche left a grieving Métis nation. Fewer than 300 Métis and Indians, led by Louis Riel and Gabriel Dumont, defended Batoche from the 800-strong Northwest Field Force. After 1885, the Métis were branded as rebels and traitors and relegated to living on road allowances. Mainstream society rejected Métis people, and the federal government disallowed recognition under the Indian Act. The Métis have endured many hardships, economically and politically, forced to live in the poverty between the worlds, and denied the right to education. Over the next several years, contemporary Métis leaders, including Jim Brady and Malcolm Norris, brought Métis issues into political discussions to raise awareness and argue for the right of a better life. St. Albert was instrumental with gathering of Métis leaders, and it is said that the Métis Nations of Alberta was started in the basement of the Catholic Church on top of the hill. Despite many hardships, Métis people have persevered for many years in the absence of political structures. Processes of friendship and reciprocity remained intact. O great Creator, we give praise and thanks to you for our lives and our families. Your gift to us of human community is one of your greatest blessings. We thank you for our elders, our grandfathers, and our grandmothers, whose patience and wisdom guide our lives. We thank you for our fathers and mothers, who by giving their love to each other bring us into the world, nurturing and leading us. We thank you for our brothers and sisters with whom we come to know what sharing and caring really means. We thank you for young people whose hope for a better world energizes and inspires us. We thank you for the little ones, the children, whose innocence and promise brings gladness and joy. O Creator, may our families always be that blessed and first community that we honor and cherish. As you continue to make all things new, may we hear your invitation in all creation to receive and share all that is good and true with each other. O Creator, we also face many challenges and crises in our lives and world. May our families continue to be the first and constant community that shows us how to live intimately and respectfully with all people and all creation. May all glory, praise, honor, and thanksgiving be shown to you, Father of all mercies and compassion. God, our Creator, give us courage. Let us be one mind. Make us righteous, thankful, and proud. Help the Métis work together, especially utilizing our elders as teachers and preparing our youth for the future. Lord, provide us with direction and inspiration as we build a road for the Métis nation to this country. We must have strong Métis in order to have a strong Métis nation. I'd like you to please remember in your prayers those who are sick, suffering, or in need, those who are struggling with physical or mental illness due to COVID-19, for safety and efforts to reopen our society, for all who are doing their best to serve others, and for all victims of racial prejudice and violence, for those who have died, for our brothers and sisters in Christ from Treaty 6, Treaty 8, First Nations, from the Métis Nation of Alberta, and from the Métis settlements of Alberta. Thank you, and amen. You can do that.
Thank you, Gary. Before we move on, I want to introduce some folks that are here. We have from the City of St. Albert, the Mayor, Kathy Heron. She'll be doing a little bit more on the program. We also have Councillors Hanson, and I'm not sure what the first names are, but I'll just read out the names. Hanson, over here, Watkins, Broadhead, and Mackay, over there. Awesome. Okay, we're going to continue on. I also want to introduce the Métis Nation of Alberta representatives. We have from Region 4, Tracy Friedel is here. And we also have our next speaker from the Métis Nation of Alberta, Vice President Dan Cardinal.
Good afternoon, elders, dignitaries, and guests. Today, Métis people across our nation will commemorate the life of Louis Riel and pay tribute to his contribution to building a country we are proud to call home. It is without question that Louis Riel devoted and sacrificed his life defending the rights of Métis people, and his legacy continues to resonate across the homeland. Observing the anniversary of his death, November 16, 1885, is one way we as Métis people pay homage to our hero, who led the Northwest and Red River rebellions against the Government of Canada to preserve our rights and culture, a vision and principles that guide the MNA today. To not remain as vigilant and determined would undermine a future and a just society Louis Riel wanted for all Métis. It is because of this foundation and the continued efforts of our leaders, past and present, that we continue to increase our citizenship throughout the province. The Métis Nation of Alberta and the City of St. Albert have always enjoyed a collaborative relationship that not only has historical roots, but today participates in shared cultural events such as the Métis Spring Festival and the National Aboriginal Day. At this time, I would like to thank Dana Stromberg for the invitation and acknowledge President Bruce Gladue of 1904. I would like to acknowledge Dr. Tracy Friedel, President of Region 4, as well as Sharon Morin from Michif Cultural Connections. And thank you for the prayer, Gary Gardner. I will close with a quote by Louis Riel. I am convinced every day that without a single exception, I did right. And I have always believed that as I have acted honestly, the time will come when the people of Canada will see and acknowledge it. Anuskagisaga kiano apitogusanat pitus et matsia queskip matsano auchte mukatkawangissia awakaginigani kianochte Louis Riel. Merci de toi.
Thank you, Danny, for bringing those greetings on behalf of the Métis Nation of Alberta. And you're going to hear a little bit about why Métis Week, or November 16th, the importance of it to the Métis Nation. One thing that strikes me, though, is we have a new nation. Our nation is only 350 years old. And in that 350 years, what we've been able to accomplish is just, for me, is phenomenal, in the sense where you've had other Indigenous peoples that have been here since time immemorial, tens and thousands of years, and we've only been here for 350, and the strides that we've made in those 350 years. I'm just excited about the next steps we're going to be taking in terms of self-government as well, and Danny kind of highlighted that, so I'm really glad you were able here to speak to that, Danny. Now, just to give you a little bit more insight into the Métis Nation, I'm going to call upon Sharon Morin with Michif Cultural Connections, and they're going to speak about the importance of Métis Week and what it means to the Métis people.
Tansekiwa, Sharon Moran Dishnakashin, Mr. Haisigigan, Pay Manatusigigan, Doschin, Nia Michif Square, Nia Mama Thalma Shalafu, Mon Garcon, Joshua Moran. Thank you, everybody. My name is Sharon Moran. I'm just going to read a couple little things. I don't want to take up too much time, and then Josh will add some more. But I want to let you know that Métis Week has been proclaimed in St. Albert for the last 14 years, starting with Michif Cultural Connections and local St. Albert Public Schools, with the St. Albert-Sturgeon Métis local joining within the last 5 years. We work together to create a time and space for the Métis community to honor the important person and in Métis and Canadian history, Louis Riel. Louis Riel was an educator, a politician, founder of the province of Manitoba, and a political leader for the Métis people of Canada. St. Albert Métis had a vibrant community with many people who started businesses, supported Fort Edmonton and the fur trade, started schools in the area to educate the children. The Métis in St. Albert also lived in River Lodge, just like Louis Riel and the Métis in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And we're concerned about losing their land, just like Riel and his people. We do know that Riel and his people sent numerous letters and petitions to John A. Macdonald and the federal government at the time, asking to preserve the land that was that they had already been living on for generations. The Métis of St. Albert were so concerned about losing their river lots and what they established here in St. Albert, with the guidance of the Catholic Church in the greater Edmonton, or the greater area, they sent one letter and one petition to the Canadian government. And after it was discussed within the House of Commons, the government at the time allowed the Métis of St. Albert to keep their original 56 river lots. So lobbying the government in 1885 was not anything new. They were doing it. Now, in 1982, when they brought the Métis Nation into the constitutional talks, we were not allowed to have a say at the table. We were allowed to give a prayer. And I remember my mom being there and her phoning me and saying that they weren't going to let them have a proper voice at the table, but they were going to allow them to say a prayer. And they had Father Guy Lavallee with them. Father Guy Lavallee wrote a 20-minute prayer. And the thought was, who's going to stop a prayer from saying, our priest from saying a prayer? We're going to get our words across. So I just have a small excerpt that I want to read to you guys about the sash and how he detailed it out there. So he says, Métis people God have been wearing the sash proudly for many years. When I look at it, I notice it is composed of many interconnected threads, many strands, many patterns, and many colors contribute to the overall design of the sash. Our Métis culture God is like the sash. The lives of the Métis have been woven together from a variety of cultures, traditions, and beliefs. For example, God, we are the descendants of the English, of the French, of the Cree, the Ojibwe, and the Scots, to name a few. We speak a variety of languages: English, Canadian French, Michif Cree, and Muskegon. Look at the sash. It is a composite. It is a mixture. It is Métis. It is made of a variety of elements like the lives of the Métis. Look at the pattern, its fabric, and its colors. Nonetheless, these elements form an integrated whole. Similarly, the different ethnic backgrounds and different languages of the Métis blend into one another to form a rich tapestry like the lives and the cultures of the Métis. Marcy, say hi, and I turn it over to Joshua.
Tanche, just let me unfog my glasses. It's the life we're in right now. Ugh. So, Tanche Kiawao, Josh Moore Nishinakashun, Mr. Sagan, Pay Manitou Sagan Dus Chin, Li Michif Nia, and Ni Pushwan Pichi Lilang Michif. So, hello everyone, my name is Joshua Morin. My family is Métis, and I speak a little bit of the language that some might call Michif in that regard. As many of you know, I work for Michif Cultural Connections company right here in St. Albert, so I'm very grateful that we're able to continue events like these even during the situation that we're in right now. So I was asked to speak today, and this is what I have written. In 1869, surveyor Adam Clark Webb and team trespassed onto Andre Nault's land. 6-team armed Métis led by Louis Riel asked them to leave, and they refused. This incident led to the escalation of the Red River Resistance. December 1st, 1869 marks the transfer of the land from the Hudson's Bay Company to the Dominion Government of Canada. To the Métis, this transaction dramatically affected their stability and left many feeling uncertain about their future. Prior to the transfer of the land, the Métis families in the Red River area and other communities across the homeland had peaceful lives. They set up systems of land and ownership and government structures conducive to their lives. In 1885, Canada ensured that Louis Riel would be murdered by creating an all-white jury. Of the 36 people receiving jury duty summons, only one spoke French, and he was unable to attend. Moreover, the only Roman Catholic and Irishman in the jury pool was challenged by the prosecution for not being of British stock and excluded. In the event, Riel was tried before a jury of 6 composed entirely of English and Scottish Protestants, all from the area immediately surrounding Regina. This quote was said by Louis Riel shortly before his execution in 1885 after one of Riel's guards asked him for a souvenir. "I have nothing but my heart, and I've given it long ago to my country." Louis Riel was our leader and died because he fought for the right to the Métis Nation, or the right of the Métis Nation to exist. Today, in Treaty 6 territory, the homeland for the Alberta Métis, we honor him and the culture of our people. Thank you for your sacrifice. Another quote that stood out to me this week from Louis Riel was, "We may be a small community and a half-breed community at that, but we are men, free and spirited men, and we will not even allow the Dominion of Canada to trample onto our rights." During the 1880s Dominion of Canada land surveying happening in the St. Albert area, the Métis were really hoping Louis Riel's Manitoba Act would apply to the community's river lots, which allowed each family to have access to the Sturgeon rivers. But when they heard surveyors from Ottawa heard nothing of the Manitoba Act, they were quite concerned and wrote a petition back to Ottawa to protect what is referred as the original 56 river lots in the St. Albert community. Instead of essentially waiting and hoping for the best, they took matters into our own hands, as we as Métis people usually do. As many of you are familiar with the word Otapinsawak, our own boss, the free people. We sent Father Leduc, local farmers Dan Maloney and Sam Cunningham to Ottawa to petition and negotiate so they can preserve and protect what is referred as the original 56 river lots in St. Albert. They were successful in the negotiations despite the 84 petitions Louis Riel wrote that the Government of Canada refused to acknowledge. This put the St. Albert Métis community in a unique spot in Métis history, as this was not achieved by many Métis communities west of Red River. During the 1885 Northwest Resistance, the St. Albert community formed the St. Albert Mounted Rifles, which were completely made up of Métis aside from Daniel Melanie, our lone Irishman, and a few Oblate brothers. The formation of the Rifles showed that the Métis were vital members of the community, being founders of the community, willing to put their lives on the line to protect the people and the communities from those that would threaten it. St. Albert, during 1885, had a historical Métis population of 865 Métis, making it one of the largest historic Métis populations in Alberta, as well as one of the oldest, or as the title of the oldest non-fortified Métis community, Mistahai Sehagan, which is the traditional name for St. Albert, meaning Big Lake Métis Settlement, or Big Lake. Michif is the language Louis Riel's people speak and continue to speak today. We consider it one of the languages of the Métis Nation, one of the languages that we created. It is much more than a language, though, because being Michif is who we are. We are Michif, a Michif nation, Le Michif Nianan, which literally means we are Michif. It is a language that comes from our hearts and was created on this land for us. We are continuing this tradition of learning our Michif language by providing Michif language classes right here in the Métis community of St. Albert at the Michif Cultural Center. As many of you know, we are offering them also online for all across the Métis homeland. As someone who's been very privileged in being raised in my Métis culture and traditions, this is very important to me because we are now learning that the words that our Kukum and Mushums literally spoke to each other. We can now say Ki Shakatin, which means I love you. And we can say Kwayash Tepishkam, which means happy birthday when it's someone's birthday. So I just want to say Marseille for giving me this opportunity to speak on this important day, started by my grandma, Pierre Rousseau, and all other community members. Marseille, pay hi hi.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Josh. As you can tell, all the snippets that you've been hearing about the Métis Nation are all tell one story. They tell the story of the birth of this Métis Nation 350 years ago, and then how we came to be today. The big story behind that, you've probably heard it before, is we're children of the fur trade. This is the only reason we're here. If there was no fur trade, there would have been no Europeans coming over, Scottish, French, whoever, to basically exploit that. And once they got here and they started hooking up with the indigenous women, and then you had the first mixed bloods, it was after a few generations where they said, hey, we're like an Aboriginal group you've not seen before. We have our own language, we have our own culture, we have all this. That ethnogenesis that happened between the 1780 and 1820, that was really huge for us. And that's where we proclaimed that. Also, this flag we're about to raise today, it was the first Indigenous flag to Canada. Back when it was first raised, the only flags were the fleur-de-lis and the Union Jack with the British and the French. This was the first Indigenous flag flown. That's something to be proud of as well. And when you're talking about the children of the fur trade, you have to talk about the inventions that came from that. The Red River cart, the York boats, all Métis inventions, all to exploit that fur trade. And that's why when you look at the nation, when you look at it coming from Manitoba, down the rivers, up to Fort Saskatchewan, north, south, it's just huge, the story behind the Métis Nation. So all these snippets that you hear today, I hope that you take it upon yourself to find out just a little bit more about the Métis Nation. With that, I'd like to invite up the Mayor of St. Albert, Mayor Heron, to do a proclamation.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm going to start with our formal land acknowledgement here at the City of St. Albert. We respectfully acknowledge that we are in Treaty 6 territory, traditional land of the First Nation and Métis people. As treaty people, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, we share the responsibility to steward this beautiful land. I want to thank everyone for coming today and continuing on this tradition of raising the Métis flag here in St. Albert. It was mentioned that I have some council members in here, but I'd like to thank them again. It's always nice to have your support. I've got Councillor Ken Mackay, Jackie Hansen, and Ray Watkins. And I did get a message from Councillor Broadhead. He really wanted to be here, but another meeting kept him away. So thank you guys for joining me. All right, I'm going to read the proclamation. And then I actually have 3 to hand out, and so I'll wipe them down before I hand them out. But I've got one for Sharon. Where'd Sharon go? Or Josh could take it. And then I have one for Bruce, of course. And then Tracy. Where'd she go? Tracy, when it's time, I got it. I have one for you as well. Thanks. All right. And I even brought my glasses for this. So, whereas a distinct Indigenous people called the Métis settled the historic Northwest, and more specifically the lakes and rivers of the settlement St. Albert, and whereas St. Albert recognizes and respects the Métis as representatives of one of the founding peoples of the community of St. Albert, and whereas the Métis emerged with a unique history and culture while instilling a collective identity immersed in pride, language, traditions, kinship, economic life, and self-government. And whereas the Métis individuals of St. Albert held government positions and assisted in developing laws to protect the people within the community of St. Albert, and whereas the Métis individuals of Alberta formed the Métis Nation organization in St. Albert in 1932, now recognized as Métis Nation of Alberta, and whereas the Métis have continued to participate in the development and growth of our community from a small settlement to a thriving city it is today, and whereas St. Albert recognizes the rights of Métis within St. Albert, specifically Section 35 of the Constitution Act of 1982, and the city will continue to be an active participant in the process of reconciliation. Now, therefore, on behalf of Council and the residents of the City of St. Albert, I, Mayor Kathy Heron, do hereby proclaim November 15th to the 22nd, 2020 as Métis Week in St. Albert, and the Métis flag shall proudly fly here at St. Albert Place. Where'd Sharon go? Where'd she go? I'm just watching.
Bouncing around.
I just wanted to.
Oh, did you? No. And Tracy, thanks. And of course, our fabulous MC, Bruce. I'll leave this one here for you.
Thank you so much. All right, that was awesome. Okay, we're going to finish this off now. Thank you, Mayor Heron, and the councillors that were able to attend. The proclamation is well received. It's so heartwarming that we're able to do this today. I'd like to call up now our Métis veteran, Chuck Isaac, who will raise the flag, and Zach Willier will be playing the fiddle. But while I'm doing that, I'd also like to recognize the youth that are here today, the leaders of our future. I just noticed a young lady here as well. So with that, Zach will play the fiddle, and Chuck will raise the flag. And we're an opportunity for us in terms of reconciliation to understand and to grow with each other. And that's one thing the Métis Local in St. Albert wants to do. It wants to help grow with the community. We have a lot that we believe we can add, not only in terms of culture, but also in terms of business, economic development. There's so many things that we can do together, and so this is just what we hope is just the beginning of this opportunity. Thank you all, and have a good day. God bless.